I'm Maya, 26, and I thought arriving at my parents' house for Thanksgiving would be routine until they blocked the entrance and told me I wasn't welcome. Standing there with my homemade pumpkin pie and overnight bag, I couldn't understand why my own mother was looking at me like I was a stranger. What I didn't know was that my sister had spent months poisoning them against me with lies so devastating that they'd decided to cut me out of the family entirely. But I had receipts that would turn their Thanksgiving dinner into a confession session they'd never forget. Before we dive into this explosive family betrayal story, I need to ask, have you ever shown up somewhere you thought you belonged only to be told you weren't welcome? What would you do if your own parents believed lies about you without even asking your side of the story? Drop your predictions about what lies could be so bad they'd make parents disown their own daughter, and if you're ready for the most shocking Thanksgiving drama that ended with justice served cold as turkey, smash that like button and subscribe. Trust me, the truth I revealed that day changed everything. I'd been looking forward to Thanksgiving for weeks. After 6 months of working overseas on a consulting project in London, I was finally coming home to spend the holidays with my family. I'd coordinated my return specifically to be there for our traditional celebration, Mom's famous turkey, Dad's terrible jokes, and the kind of warm family chaos that makes you grateful for the people who've known you your whole life. The flight from London had been delayed, so I arrived at my parents' house later than expected, around 3 p.m. I could see cars in the driveway, my sister Ashley's SUV, my Uncle Tom's truck, my grandparents' sedan. The whole family was already gathered, which made me even more excited to surprise everyone with my early return. I'd told my parents I was coming home for Thanksgiving, but I hadn't mentioned that I was arriving a day early. I wanted to surprise everyone and help with the last-minute preparations the way I used to when I lived locally. Balancing my overnight bag, a bottle of wine I'd brought from London, and the pumpkin pie I'd made from scratch that morning using Mom's recipe, I walked up to the front door with a huge smile on my face. I could hear laughter and conversation from inside, the sounds of a family gathering in full swing. I rang the doorbell, expecting to see Mom or Dad's delighted face when they realized their daughter had come home early for the holiday. Instead, when the door opened, Mom's expression went from curiosity to something I'd never seen before, cold disappointment mixed with what looked almost like disgust. "Maya," she said flatly, not moving aside to let me in. "Surprise," I said, holding up the pie. I caught an earlier flight and thought I'd come help with dinner preparations. But Mom didn't smile. She didn't hug me. She didn't invite me in. Instead, she called over her shoulder, "Robert, she's here." Dad appeared behind her, and his expression was just as cold as Mom's. This wasn't the warm welcome I'd expected from parents who hadn't seen their daughter in 6 months. "Maya," Dad said, his voice formal and distant, "we need to talk." "Okay," I said, still confused but starting to feel alarmed. "Can we talk inside? It's cold out here." "Actually," Mom said, stepping partially outside and pulling the door closed behind her, "we think it's better if we talk out here." I looked between my parents, trying to understand what was happening. "Is everything okay? Did someone die? Is Grandpa all right?" "Everyone is fine," Dad said. "But Maya, we've learned some things about you that are very disappointing and frankly, disturbing." "What things?" I asked, setting down my bags because my hands were starting to shake. "We know about the lies you've been telling," Mom said. "We know about the money you've been stealing. We know about the things you've been saying about our family to your coworkers and friends." I stared at them in complete bewilderment. "What are you talking about? What lies? What money?" "Maya, please don't make this harder than it already is," Dad said. "Ashley told us everything." "Ashley told you what exactly?" "About the money you took from Grandma's account before you left for London. About how you've been telling people at work that we're abusive parents who never supported your career. About how you've been lying to us about your job situation and your living arrangements overseas." The accusations were so bizarre and specific that I felt like I was having some kind of surreal nightmare. "Dad, I have never taken money from Grandma. I would never say our family was abusive. And I haven't lied about anything regarding my job or living situation." "Maya," Mom said, her voice getting harder, "we have proof." "What proof?" Ashley showed us the bank statements. She showed us the social media posts. She played us the voicemails you left her complaining about us. I felt like the ground was tilting under my feet. What bank statements? What social media posts? I never left Ashley any voicemails complaining about you. Please stop lying, Dad said. We've seen the evidence with our own eyes. Then show me the evidence. Let me see what Ashley showed you. My parents exchanged a look that I couldn't interpret. Maya, Mom said, we think it's best if you don't come to Thanksgiving dinner today. You're uninviting me from Thanksgiving? We're asking you to take some time to think about your behavior and the lies you've been telling. When you're ready to be honest with us and apologize for what you've done, we can talk about rebuilding our relationship. I felt like I was going to be sick. My own parents were standing in front of me, treating me like a criminal based on accusations I didn't understand from evidence I'd never seen. Mom, Dad, please. I just flew 8 hours to be here with you. I haven't seen you in 6 months. Whatever Ashley told you, there has to be some kind of misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, Dad said firmly. Ashley has been very clear about what you've done, and she's provided documentation to prove it. Then let me see the documentation. Let me defend myself. Maya, your defensiveness is just proving Ashley's point about how you handle confrontation, Mom said. I realized then that this conversation was going nowhere. My parents had already made up their minds about my guilt based on whatever Ashley had told them, and they weren't interested in hearing my side of the story. Fine, I said, trying to keep my voice steady even though I was starting to cry. But I want you to know that whatever Ashley showed you, whatever she told you I did or said, it's not true. I have never stolen money from Grandma. I have never said anything negative about our family to my coworkers. I have never lied to you about my job or my life in London. Maya. And I want you to know that 6 months ago, when I left for London, I thought I had a family who loved me and trusted me. I thought I had parents who would at least listen to my side of the story before deciding I was a liar and a thief. We do love you, Mom said, but her voice lacked conviction. That's why this is so hard for us. If you loved me, you wouldn't be turning me away from Thanksgiving dinner based on accusations you won't even let me address. I picked up my bags and the bottle of wine, leaving the pumpkin pie on their doorstep. When you're ready to hear the truth instead of just believing whatever convenient lies Ashley has told you, you know how to reach me. As I walked back to my rental car, I could see faces in the windows of the house, family members watching the confrontation but not intervening. I wondered if they all believed Ashley's stories about me, or if they were as confused as I was about what was happening. Driving away from my childhood home on Thanksgiving afternoon, banned from my own family's dinner, was one of the lowest moments of my life. But it was also the moment I decided to fight back. Whatever game Ashley was playing, whatever lies she'd told to turn our parents against me, I was going to expose the truth. And I was going to make sure everyone understood exactly what kind of person would destroy their sister's relationship with their family for their own twisted purposes. I checked into a nearby hotel, still in shock from what had just happened. Sitting alone in a generic room on Thanksgiving afternoon, I tried to piece together what could have possibly convinced my parents that I was a liar, a thief, and someone who badmouthed our family to outsiders. The accusations were so specific that Ashley had to have provided some kind of fabricated evidence. Bank statements showing money stolen from Grandma. Social media posts where I allegedly complained about our parents. Voicemails where I supposedly badmouthed our family. But I knew I hadn't done any of those things, which meant Ashley had somehow created fake evidence to support her lies. I started by checking my own financial records on my laptop. My bank accounts, credit cards, investment accounts, everything was exactly as it should be. I'd never had access to Grandma's accounts, and I'd never made any unauthorized transfers or withdrawals from anyone's money. Next, I went through all my social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I searched through months of posts, comments, and messages, looking for anything that could be construed as criticism of my family. There was nothing. My social media presence was mostly professional updates about my consulting work, travel photos from London, and occasional family pictures with positive captions about missing everyone. Then I checked my phone records and email accounts for any communications with Ashley that could have been twisted into complaints about our parents. Again, nothing. In fact, looking through my communication history with Ashley, I realized we'd barely been in touch since I'd left for London. A few text messages here and there, mostly logistics about addresses and time zones, but no substantial conversations about family issues or personal problems. That's when I started to suspect that Ashley hadn't just lied about me, she'd actively created false evidence to support her lies. I called my best friend Sarah, who worked in cybersecurity and understood digital forensics better than anyone I knew. "Sarah, I need your help with something really serious," I said when she answered. "I think my sister has been creating fake evidence to convince my parents that I've done things I haven't done." "What kind of fake evidence?" I explained the accusations, stolen money, social media posts, voicemails, and how my parents claimed Ashley had shown them proof of all of it. "Maya, that's incredibly sophisticated manipulation if she's actually fabricating bank statements and social media posts. Are you sure she has the technical skills to do something like that?" "I don't know. But Sarah, I know I didn't do any of the things she's accusing me of." Which means either my parents are completely lying about what they've seen, or Ashley has somehow created false evidence. "Okay, here's what we need to do. First, can you get your hands on whatever evidence Ashley showed your parents?" "They wouldn't show it to me today. They just said Ashley had provided documentation and that was enough for them. Then we need to create our own documentation proving your innocence. Can you pull your complete banking records for the past year?" I spent the next several hours compiling evidence of my actual financial activity, social media history, and communication records. Sarah walked me through how to take screenshots with timestamps, how to download official bank statements, and how to create a comprehensive timeline of my real activities. But the more I thought about the situation, the more I realized there had to be a deeper motive for Ashley's lies. She hadn't just randomly decided to destroy my relationship with our parents. There had to be something she wanted to gain from my exile from the family. That's when I remembered the conversation I'd had with Mom right before I left for London 6 months ago. She'd mentioned that she and Dad were updating their wills and estate planning documents, and that they were considering how to handle inheritance and financial support for their adult children as they got older. I called my grandmother's house, hoping she might answer even though she was probably at my parents' house for Thanksgiving dinner. Surprisingly, she picked up on the second ring. "Grandma, it's Maya. Are you at Mom and Dad's for dinner?" "No, sweetheart, I decided to stay home this year. My arthritis has been bothering me, and I didn't want to sit in a car for 2 hours." "Grandma, I need to ask you something important. Has anyone accessed your bank accounts recently? Has anyone asked for money or tried to use your financial information?" "What a strange question, Maya. Why would you ask that?" "Because Ashley told my parents that I stole money from your account, and they've banned me from Thanksgiving dinner based on that accusation." The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long that I thought we might have been disconnected. "Grandma? Are you there?" "Maya," her voice was quiet and worried, "I need to tell you something. Ashley has been asking me a lot of questions about my financial accounts lately. She said she was worried about elder fraud and wanted to make sure I was protected." "What kind of questions?" "She asked about my online banking passwords, my account numbers, where I keep my financial documents. She even offered to help me organize my paperwork and set up better security for my accounts." My blood ran cold. "Grandma, did you give Ashley access to any of your financial information?" I might have given her some account numbers so she could help me check for suspicious activity. She seemed so concerned about protecting me." "When did this happen?" "About 3 months ago. She said she'd learned about elder financial fraud at her job and wanted to make sure I wasn't vulnerable." I felt sick. Ashley had gained access to Grandma's financial information under the guise of protecting her, then used that access to create fake evidence that I had stolen from her accounts. "Grandma, I need you to check your bank statements very carefully. Look for any transactions you didn't authorize, any money that's been moved without your knowledge." "Maya, you're scaring me." Do you think Ashley has been stealing from me? I don't know yet, but I think she's been using your account information to create fake evidence against me. Can you log into your online banking right now? For the next 20 minutes, I walked Grandma through checking her recent bank statements. What we found was worse than I'd expected. Over the past 3 months, there had been multiple small withdrawals from Grandma's savings account, never more than $200 at a time, but adding up to nearly $2,000 total. The withdrawals were coded as ATM transactions, but they were happening at locations near Ashley's work and apartment, not near Grandma's house. Grandma, these ATM withdrawals, did you make these? No, sweetheart. I hardly ever use ATMs, and I've never been to any of these locations. Someone has been using your ATM card to steal money from your account. And based on the locations, I think it's Ashley. But why would Ashley steal from me? I don't know yet. But Grandma, I think Ashley has been stealing your money and then creating fake evidence to make it look like I was the one who stole from you. That's horrible. Why would she do such a thing? I'm going to find out. But first, we need to protect your accounts and document what's been happening. Can you call your bank tomorrow and report the unauthorized transactions? Of course. Maya, I'm so sorry. If I hadn't given Ashley my account information, none of this would have happened. Grandma, this isn't your fault. Ashley manipulated your trust and your desire to be protected from fraud. She's the one who committed crimes, not you. After hanging up with Grandma, I sat in my hotel room staring at the evidence I'd compiled. Ashley hadn't just lied about me stealing from Grandma, she'd actually stolen from Grandma herself, then created a narrative where I was the thief. But the bank records I now had access to would prove exactly who had been making those unauthorized withdrawals. And I had a feeling that once I exposed Ashley's actual crimes, her other lies about my behavior and social media posts would unravel just as quickly. My family had banned me from Thanksgiving dinner based on lies and fabricated evidence. But tomorrow, I was going to serve them a meal they'd never forget, the truth, with all the receipts on the side. Black Friday took on a whole new meaning as I spent the day building an airtight case against Ashley's lies and crimes. Armed with Grandma's banking information and Sarah's cybersecurity expertise, I was determined to expose every aspect of Ashley's manipulation before confronting my family. Sarah drove up from the city early Friday morning, bringing her laptop and a portable printer. She'd also brought coffee and bagels, because she understood that this was going to be a long day of detective work. Okay, she said, setting up her equipment on the hotel room desk, let's start with the banking evidence and work our way through each accusation systematically. First, we documented the unauthorized withdrawals from Grandma's account. Sarah helped me create a detailed timeline showing exactly when and where each ATM transaction had occurred. Then we cross-referenced those locations and times with Ashley's known schedule and locations. Look at this, Sarah said, pointing to the computer screen. These 3 withdrawals happened at ATMs within 2 blocks of Ashley's office, during her lunch hour on workdays. This one happened at the grocery store near her apartment. This one at the gas station she always uses. It's like she wasn't even trying to hide it, I said. She probably thought no one would ever check, especially if she could convince your parents that you were the ones stealing from your grandmother. Next, we tackled the social media allegations. Sarah used her forensics training to examine my actual social media activity and create detailed reports showing my complete posting history, comments, and interactions. Maya, your social media presence is almost boringly positive about your family, Sarah laughed as she scrolled through months of posts. You've posted pictures from family gatherings, shared your mom's recipe for banana bread, and wished your dad happy birthday with a long paragraph about how grateful you are for his support. If Ashley claimed you were bad-mouthing your family online, she had to have fabricated screenshots. Can you tell if someone has created fake social media posts? Usually, yes. Fake screenshots often have subtle inconsistencies in fonts, spacing, or metadata. But more importantly, we can prove these fake posts don't exist by showing your complete, unedited posting history. Sarah spent 2 hours creating a comprehensive report of my actual social media activity, complete with timestamps and metadata that would prove any screenshots Ashley had shown our parents were fabricated. The voicemail accusation was trickier to address, but Sarah had an idea. Do you still have Ashley's phone number? Of course. Call her voicemail right now and leave a message. Then we'll have a recording of your actual voice and speaking patterns to compare against whatever she claims you said in previous voicemails. I called Ashley's phone and left a brief, neutral message. Hi Ashley, it's Maya. I'm back in town for Thanksgiving and I'd like to talk to you about some family issues. Please call me back when you get a chance. Now, Sarah said, if she claims you left angry, abusive voicemails complaining about your parents, we can compare the tone and language patterns. Voice analysis can often detect when recordings have been edited or fabricated. But I had a suspicion that Ashley's evidence of my supposed voicemails might be even simpler to debunk. Sarah, what if Ashley didn't fake recordings of my voice? What if she just told our parents she had voicemails from me, but never actually played anything for them? You mean she just described what she claimed you said, without providing actual audio evidence? My parents aren't very tech-savvy. If Ashley told them I'd left horrible voicemails and offered to play them, they might have said they didn't need to hear the actual recordings because they trusted her description. Sarah nodded. That's actually pretty brilliant manipulation. She gets the impact of accusing you of saying terrible things, but she doesn't have to produce actual fake audio, which would be much harder to create convincingly. By afternoon, we had a comprehensive dossier proving my innocence on every accusation Ashley had made. Bank records showing I'd never accessed Grandma's accounts. Social media reports proving I'd never posted anything negative about my family. Phone records showing I'd barely communicated with Ashley at all during my time in London, much less left her angry voicemails. But we also had something more damaging, evidence of Ashley's actual crimes. Maya, Sarah said, based on what we've documented, Ashley committed identity theft by using your grandmother's financial information without authorization. She committed theft by taking money from accounts she had no legal right to access. And she committed fraud by creating false evidence to support lies about you. What should I do with this information? Well, you have a few options. You could take it to the police and file criminal charges against Ashley. You could take it to your parents and demand they acknowledge they were wrong about you. Or you could confront Ashley directly and demand she confess to your parents herself. I think I want to confront the whole family at once, I said. I want everyone to see the evidence simultaneously, so there's no opportunity for Ashley to spin the story or claim I'm lying about her lies. That's risky, Sarah warned. Family confrontations can get emotional and unpredictable. Good. I want Ashley to be emotional and unpredictable. I want everyone to see her reaction when she's caught red-handed with evidence she can't deny or explain away. Sarah helped me organize all the evidence into a clear, compelling presentation. Bank statements, ATM records, social media reports, communication logs, everything arranged chronologically to tell the story of Ashley's systematic campaign to destroy my relationship with our family while covering up her own crimes. One more thing, Sarah said as we finished the presentation. We should also document the financial impact of Ashley's lies on your relationship with your family. You flew back from London specifically for Thanksgiving, you paid for flights and hotel rooms, and you've potentially damaged your relationship with your parents based on false accusations. Why is that important? Because Ashley's lies didn't just hurt your reputation, they cost you money and emotional trauma. If you decide to pursue this legally, that's additional evidence of the harm she caused through her fraud. As the sun set on Black Friday, I had everything I needed to prove my innocence and expose Ashley's crimes. But I also had something more powerful, absolute certainty about the truth. For 24 hours, I'd been questioning myself, wondering if somehow I'd forgotten taking money from Grandma or posting something inappropriate online. The gaslighting had been so complete that I'd started to doubt my own memories and perceptions. But now I had documentation proving that my memories were accurate, my financial records were clean, and my character was intact. Ashley had systematically lied about me to our parents, stolen money from our grandmother, and fabricated evidence to support her false accusations. The only question remaining was why she'd done it. What did Ashley gain from destroying my relationship with our family? I suspected I'd find out tomorrow when I showed up at my parents' house with receipts, evidence, and demands for answers. This time, they were going to listen to my side of the story whether they wanted to or not. You know what's wild about family betrayals? Sometimes the person who's been manipulating everyone thinks they're so smart that they'll never get caught. What happens next is where Ashley found out that destroying your sister's life comes with consequences she never saw coming. If you've ever had to prove your innocence to people who should have trusted you automatically, stay tuned because this confrontation is going to expose every lie she told. Saturday morning, I drove back to my parents' house with Sarah as backup and 3 bankers' boxes full of evidence in my trunk. This time, I wasn't leaving until everyone understood the truth about what Ashley had done to our family. I'd called ahead to make sure everyone would be there: Mom, Dad, Ashley, and Grandma, who I'd asked to drive over for what I described as an important family meeting about financial security. When I rang the doorbell, Mom answered with the same cold expression she'd worn on Thanksgiving. "Maya, we told you we didn't want to see you until you were ready to apologize for your behavior." "I am ready to apologize," I said calmly. "But first, I need everyone to see some important evidence I've gathered. I have documentation that will clear up all the confusion about what I've supposedly done." Mom looked skeptical, but she let me in. Sarah followed, carrying one of the boxes, and I could see Ashley in the living room, her face going pale when she saw us bringing in what was obviously a significant amount of paperwork. "What's all this?" Dad asked, looking at the boxes. "This is proof of my innocence regarding every accusation Ashley has made against me," I said, setting the boxes on the dining room table. "And it's also proof of some very serious crimes that have been committed against our family." Ashley stood up quickly. "Maya, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but..." "Sit down, Ashley," I said firmly. "You're going to want to hear this." Grandma arrived as I was setting up my laptop and printer. She hugged me tightly, whispering, "I've been thinking about our conversation all night, sweetheart. I'm ready to tell everyone what I've discovered about my bank accounts." "Maya," Dad said, "before you start whatever presentation this is, I want you to know that Ashley has been very clear about what you've done. We have evidence." "No, Dad, you have lies that Ashley told you and fake evidence she created to support those lies." "But now I have real evidence, with timestamps and documentation that will prove who's been telling the truth and who's been committing actual crimes." I opened the first folder and spread Grandma's bank statements across the table. "Let's start with the accusation that I stole money from Grandma's account." "Maya, we already know," Mom began. "Mom, please just look at the evidence before you speak." I pointed to the highlighted transactions. "These are unauthorized ATM withdrawals from Grandma's savings account over the past 3 months. Nearly $2,000 total." "That proves you were stealing from her," Ashley said, but her voice was shaky. "Actually, it proves someone was stealing from her. But look at the locations and times of these withdrawals." I spread out a map showing the ATM locations. Every single withdrawal happened near Ashley's work or apartment, during times when Ashley would have been in those areas. "That's a coincidence," Ashley said desperately. "Is it?" "Grandma, tell everyone about the conversation we had yesterday." Grandma's voice was steady but sad as she explained how Ashley had gained access to her banking information under the guise of protecting her from fraud, and how she'd never authorized any of the ATM withdrawals that had been made. "But Maya," Mom said, looking confused, "Ashley showed U.S. bank statements proving you had taken money from Grandma." "Show me those statements right now," I demanded. Ashley was looking increasingly panicked. "I don't have them with me right now. They're at my apartment." "That's convenient," Sarah said, speaking for the first time. "Because we brought Grandma's actual bank statements, downloaded directly from the bank's website with official timestamps and account numbers. If Ashley has different statements showing Maya made these withdrawals, they're fabricated." I opened my laptop and showed them the screen capture of Grandma's online banking portal, with my name nowhere on the account access logs. This shows every person who has logged into Grandma's online banking account over the past 6 months. My name appears nowhere on this list. But Ashley's name appears 17 times. The room was silent as everyone processed this information. Now let's talk about the social media posts where I supposedly badmouthed our family, I continued, opening the next folder. I'd printed out every single social media post I'd made over the past year, with timestamps and engagement data showing exactly what I'd shared online. This is my complete social media history for the past 12 months, I said, spreading the papers across the table. Please find a single post where I said anything negative about our family. Mom and Dad began reading through the posts, their expressions growing more confused and concerned with each page. These are all positive, Dad said quietly. Photos from family gatherings, birthday wishes, sharing Mom's recipes. But Ashley showed us screenshots of posts where you complained about us being unsupportive and abusive, Mom said. Then Ashley created fake screenshots, because these posts don't exist on any of my social media accounts, I replied. Sarah can explain how fake social media evidence is created and why the screenshots Ashley showed you were fabricated. Sarah launched into a technical explanation of how fake social media posts could be created and why my actual posting history proved that any negative screenshots were fabricated. Ashley was now visibly sweating. This is insane. You're creating fake evidence to make me look bad. Ashley, I said calmly, everything I'm showing you has official timestamps, bank verification codes, and metadata that proves its authenticity. If you think I've faked any of this evidence, call the bank right now and ask them to verify Grandma's transaction history. What about the voicemails? Ashley asked desperately. You can't fake the things you said to me in those angry voicemails. What voicemails? I asked. Ashley, show everyone your phone. Play these voicemails where I supposedly complained about our parents. I deleted them because they were so hurtful. How convenient. But Ashley, I have my complete phone records showing every call I've made over the past 6 months. I pulled out another set of documents. I've called you exactly 4 times since I've been in London. Each call lasted less than 2 minutes. When did I supposedly leave these long, angry voicemails? Ashley looked around the room desperately, searching for support that was rapidly evaporating. This is all very sophisticated manipulation on Maya's part, she said. She's had time to plan this and create fake evidence. Ashley, Grandma said quietly, did you steal money from my bank account? I borrowed some money when I was having financial difficulties. I was going to pay it back. Without asking me? Using ATM cards you weren't authorized to have? I was protecting you from having to worry about lending me money. By stealing from me and then blaming Maya for the theft? The admission hung in the air like a physical presence. Ashley had just confessed to stealing from our grandmother and framing me for her crimes. Why? Mom asked, her voice barely a whisper. Ashley, why would you do this to your own sister? Why would you lie about Maya and steal from your grandmother? Ashley's composure finally cracked completely. Because Maya gets everything, she screamed. She gets to travel the world and have exciting jobs while I'm stuck in a dead-end position with bills I can't pay. She gets all the attention and praise for being so independent and successful, while I'm treated like the boring, responsible one who stays home and takes care of family obligations. So you decided to destroy her relationship with us? Dad asked. I decided to make everyone see that Maya isn't the perfect daughter you think she is. I wanted her to face some consequences for always being the favorite. By committing crimes and framing her for theft. I needed the money from Grandma, and I knew if Maya was blamed for it, no one would investigate further. Mom was crying now, staring at Ashley like she'd never seen her before. You destroyed our relationship with Maya because you were jealous of her success. You stole from your own grandmother and lied to us for months. And you convinced us to ban our daughter from Thanksgiving dinner based on fabricated evidence, Dad added, his voice getting angry. Ashley, what you've done isn't just cruel, it's criminal. I pulled out the final folder. Speaking of criminal, I've documented every aspect of Ashley's fraud, identity theft, and defamation. The police report I'm filing on Monday will include all of this evidence. You're calling the police? Ashley asked. Ashley, you committed elder financial abuse against our grandmother and fraud against our entire family. Yes, I'm calling the police. But I'm your sister. Sisters don't steal from their grandmothers and frame their siblings for crimes they didn't commit, I replied. Sisters don't destroy family relationships with calculated lies and fabricated evidence. Looking around the room at my parents' devastated faces, at Grandma's disappointment, at Ashley's desperate realization that her lies had been completely exposed, I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 days: vindication. The truth was finally out. My family now understood that I'd been telling the truth all along, and that Ashley had systematically manipulated them into believing I was a liar and a thief. But Ashley's betrayal had damaged more than just my reputation. She'd broken our parents' trust, violated our grandmother's financial security, and destroyed the family dynamic we'd all taken for granted. Some betrayals are so comprehensive that they can't be forgiven or forgotten. They can only be acknowledged, documented, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The silence in the room after Ashley's confession was deafening. Everyone was staring at her as if she'd transformed into someone they'd never met before, which, in many ways, she had. The sister and daughter we thought we knew had been systematically lying, stealing, and manipulating our family for months. Mom was the first to speak, her voice shaking with hurt and anger. Ashley, how could you do this to us? How could you make us believe Maya was a thief and a liar when you were the one committing crimes? I needed the money, Ashley said, but all the fight had gone out of her voice. I'd been struggling financially for months, and I knew Grandma had savings that she didn't really need. That's not your decision to make, Dad said firmly. Grandma's money is hers to manage, not yours to steal. And Maya? I asked. What about destroying my relationship with our family? What about making me miss Thanksgiving dinner and making our parents think I was a criminal? Ashley looked at me with a mixture of shame and residual resentment. I was angry that you got to run off to London and have adventures while I was stuck here dealing with real responsibilities. Real responsibilities like stealing from our grandmother? I was helping Mom and Dad with household tasks, visiting Grandma regularly, being present for family obligations while you were living your exciting life overseas. Ashley, Grandma said quietly, you weren't visiting me to help or spend time with me. You were visiting me to gain access to my financial information so you could steal from me. The weight of that statement settled over everyone. Ashley hadn't been the devoted granddaughter and family caretaker she'd presented herself as. She'd been a predator, using family visits as opportunities to commit financial crimes. I was going to pay back the money, Ashley insisted weakly. With what? I asked. You just admitted you've been struggling financially for months. Where was the money to repay Grandma going to come from? Ashley had no answer, because there was no answer. Her plan hadn't included repaying the stolen money, it had only included framing me for the theft and hoping no one would investigate further. Dad was examining the evidence I'd spread across the table, his face growing more disturbed as he processed the scope of Ashley's deception. Ashley, these fake bank statements you showed us, he said, holding up photocopies from my evidence file. How did you create these? I used photo editing software to change the names on Grandma's real bank statements. And the fake social media screenshots? The same software. I took Maya's real posts and edited them to say different things. Mom was staring at Ashley in horror. You spent time and effort creating elaborate fake evidence to destroy your sister's relationship with us. This wasn't a moment of poor judgment. This was a calculated campaign of lies. I was desperate. Desperate enough to steal from an elderly family member and frame your sister for crimes she didn't commit, I said. Ashley, that's not desperation, that's sociopathic behavior. Sarah, who had been quietly documenting everything, spoke up. From a legal perspective, Ashley has confessed to identity theft, elder financial abuse, fraud, and defamation. These are serious felonies that carry significant prison time. You're really going to send your own sister to prison? Ashley asked me, tears starting to form. Ashley, you sent your own sister into exile from her family based on lies and fabricated evidence. You made our parents believe I was a criminal. You stole from our grandmother. Yes, I'm going to make sure you face consequences for your actions. But what about forgiveness? What about family? What about the family relationship you destroyed with your lies? I countered. What about the forgiveness you never asked for because you weren't planning to confess unless you got caught? Dad was reading through more of the evidence, shaking his head. Maya, I owe you the biggest apology of my life. We should have listened to your side of the story before believing Ashley's accusations. We should have demanded to see evidence before banning you from our home. Yes, you should have, I agreed. But I also understand that Ashley was very convincing, and she provided what looked like legitimate documentation of her claims. That's not an excuse, Mom said, wiping tears from her eyes. Maya, we failed you as parents. We chose to believe lies about you instead of trusting the daughter we raised. The daughter you knew I was for 26 years, I added. Nothing in my history suggested I was capable of stealing from Grandma or bad-mouthing our family. But you were ready to believe I'd suddenly become that person based on Ashley's word alone. The conversation was interrupted by Ashley's phone ringing. She looked at the screen and her face went white. It's my credit card company, she said. Answer it, Dad commanded. Ashley reluctantly took the call, and we could all hear her side of what was clearly a conversation about overdue payments and defaulted accounts. When she hung up, she looked defeated. Ashley, I said, how much debt are you carrying? About $15,000. And that's why you needed money from Grandma? I was going to lose my apartment. My car was about to be repossessed. I needed cash immediately, and I knew Grandma had savings. So instead of asking our family for help, you decided to steal from Grandma and destroy my reputation to cover up your crimes? I was ashamed. I didn't want everyone to know how badly I'd screwed up my finances. So you decided to make everyone think I was the screw-up instead? Ashley nodded miserably. Grandma had been quiet during most of this conversation, but now she spoke with a firmness I rarely heard from her. Ashley, I would have helped you if you'd asked. I would have loaned you money or helped you figure out a budget or connected you with financial counseling. But instead, you stole from me and tried to destroy your sister's relationship with our family. That's not something I can forgive. Grandma, please. No. Ashley, you violated my trust, stole my money, and used my love for my family as a weapon against Maya. You're not welcome in my home anymore, and you're not welcome to contact me until you've made full restitution and served whatever legal consequences you face. The finality in Grandma's voice seemed to break something in Ashley. She started sobbing, but they were tears of self-pity rather than genuine remorse. This is going to destroy my life, she cried. No, I said firmly, your choices destroyed your life. The lies, the theft, the fraud, those were your decisions. The consequences are just reality catching up with your actions. Maya's right, Dad said. Ashley, you made a series of deliberate choices to commit crimes and hurt your family. The consequences of those choices aren't something that's happening to you, they're something you earned through your own behavior. Mom was looking through more of the evidence, her expression growing increasingly disturbed. Ashley, this timeline shows you've been planning this manipulation for months. The fake evidence, the lies about Maya, the theft from Grandma, this wasn't impulsive behavior. This was systematic deception. I was trying to solve my problems. By creating bigger problems for everyone else in the family, I replied. Ashley, your financial difficulties were temporary and solvable. But the damage you've done to our family relationships and Grandma's sense of security, that's permanent. Sarah was packing up our evidence, but she paused to address Ashley directly. From a legal perspective, the sophistication of your fraud actually makes the charges more serious. Creating fake bank statements and social media posts shows premeditation and intent to deceive. That typically results in harsher sentences than impulsive crimes. What's going to happen to me? Ashley asked. That depends on the prosecutor and the judge, I replied. But Ashley, elder financial abuse is taken very seriously by the courts, especially when it involves identity theft and fraud. You're probably looking at significant prison time. And restitution to Grandma for the money you stole, Dad added. And possibly damages to Maya for the harm you caused to her reputation and relationships, Sarah noted. Ashley looked around the room, finally understanding that there would be real consequences for her actions, and that her family wasn't going to protect her from those consequences. I'm sorry, she said finally. I'm sorry I did this to everyone. I believe you're sorry you got caught, I replied. But Ashley, if I hadn't come back early for Thanksgiving, if I hadn't investigated your accusations, if I hadn't exposed your lies with evidence, would you ever have confessed? Would you ever have told the truth about what you did? Ashley's silence was answer enough. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in a prosecutor's office, providing testimony for the criminal case against Ashley. The charges were extensive: elder financial abuse, identity theft, bank fraud, forgery, and criminal defamation. The prosecutor, Jennifer Martinez, had told me it was one of the most comprehensive family fraud cases she'd handled. The sophistication of the fake evidence your sister created actually works in our favor, she explained. It shows clear premeditation and intent to deceive. This wasn't a moment of poor judgment, it was an elaborate criminal conspiracy. What kind of sentence is she looking at? Given the amount stolen, the vulnerability of the victim, and the elaborate nature of the fraud, she's probably looking at 3 to 5 years in prison, plus restitution and probation. Ashley had hired a lawyer who was trying to negotiate a plea deal, but the evidence was so overwhelming that there wasn't much room for negotiation. She'd confessed to the crimes in front of multiple witnesses, and we had documentation proving every aspect of her fraud. Meanwhile, my relationship with my parents was slowly healing, but it was complicated. They were genuinely remorseful about believing Ashley's lies and banning me from Thanksgiving, but I was struggling to trust them the way I had before. Maya, Mom said during one of our difficult conversations, I know we failed you, but I hope you can understand how convincing Ashley was. She had fake evidence and she seemed so concerned about the family. Mom, I get that Ashley was convincing. But what bothers me is how quickly you were willing to believe the worst about me. 26 years of knowing me as an honest, responsible person, and you threw all of that away based on one conversation with Ashley. We were wrong, Dad admitted. But honey, we're human. We made a terrible mistake in judgment. It wasn't just a mistake in judgment, I replied. It was a failure of trust and love. When someone accuses your child of serious crimes, the first response should be to talk to that child and get their side of the story, not to ban them from family gatherings. The conversations were painful but necessary. My parents were learning that rebuilding trust after a betrayal requires more than apologies. It requires acknowledging the depth of the harm caused and committing to different behavior in the future. Grandma, meanwhile, was dealing with her own trauma from Ashley's betrayal. The violation of her financial security had shaken her confidence in ways that extended far beyond the stolen money. I keep wondering what other lies Ashley told me, she said during one of my visits. I keep questioning my own judgment about people and situations. Grandma, Ashley's manipulation was sophisticated and deliberate. She studied your routines and vulnerabilities specifically to exploit them. That's not a reflection of your judgment, it's a reflection of her criminal intent. But I gave her my banking information. I trusted her with access to my accounts. Because she presented herself as someone trying to protect you from financial fraud. She used your desire to be safe and secure as a weapon against you. The financial impact on Grandma was significant, not just the $2,000 Ashley had stolen, but the costs of changing all her banking information, updating security measures, and hiring a financial advisor to help prevent future exploitation. I want to pay for all of those expenses, I told Grandma. The security consultations, the new account fees, everything. Ashley's crimes shouldn't cost you money beyond what she already stole. Maya, sweetheart, that's not your responsibility. Maybe not legally, but it feels like my responsibility morally. If I hadn't been overseas, if I'd been more present in the family, maybe I would have noticed Ashley's behavior earlier and prevented some of this harm. My therapist, Dr. Jennifer Wong, helped me work through the complex emotions of family betrayal and recovery. Maya, you're experiencing a very normal response to this type of manipulation, she explained. When someone systematically lies about us to people we love, it creates a kind of psychological trauma that's different from other types of harm. How so? Because it attacks not just your reputation, but your sense of reality and your faith in family bonds. Ashley didn't just steal money, she stole your family's trust in you and your confidence that your family would believe you when you told the truth. That insight helped me understand why I was having trouble sleeping, why I kept replaying conversations with my parents, why I felt anxious about family interactions in a way I never had before. The good news, Dr. Wong continued, is that you handled the situation almost perfectly. You gathered evidence, presented it clearly, and exposed the truth in a way that was undeniable. You didn't let Ashley's lies define your reality or destroy your relationships permanently. But the relationships are still damaged. Yes, but they're damaged in a way that can be repaired if everyone is willing to do the work. Your parents now understand that they made serious errors in judgment, and they're committed to rebuilding your trust. That's a foundation for healing. 3 months after the Thanksgiving confrontation, Ashley pleaded guilty to all charges in exchange for a 4-year prison sentence and full restitution to Grandma. At the sentencing hearing, she was given an opportunity to make a statement. "I want to apologize to my family for the harm I caused," she said, reading from a prepared statement. "I made terrible decisions because of financial pressure and jealousy, and I understand that my actions were criminal and hurtful." But even in her apology, Ashley continued to minimize her responsibility. She described her crimes as terrible decisions, rather than deliberate fraud, and she focused on her financial pressure rather than acknowledging the systematic nature of her deception. "Your Honor," I said when given the opportunity to provide a victim impact statement, "my sister didn't just steal money or create fake evidence. She weaponized our family's love and trust against us. She turned our desire to protect each other into a tool for manipulation and exploitation. The impact of her crimes extends far beyond the financial theft. She destroyed our grandmother's sense of security, damaged my relationship with my parents, and created trauma that we're all still processing months later. But perhaps most importantly, she showed a level of calculating manipulation that suggests she's a danger to other vulnerable people. The sophistication of her fraud and her willingness to destroy family relationships for personal gain indicates someone who lacks empathy and moral boundaries." The judge agreed, noting that Ashley's crimes showed a disturbing pattern of manipulation and exploitation that goes beyond typical financial crimes. After the sentencing, my parents and I went to lunch together. It was the first time the three of us had shared a meal since before Ashley's crimes were exposed, and it felt like a small step toward rebuilding our relationship. "Maya," Dad said over dessert, "I want you to know that we've learned something important from this experience." "What's that?" "We learned that the child who asks for help and admits their problems is often more trustworthy than the child who appears to have everything figured out," Mom added. "Ashley seemed so responsible and stable, while your career path and lifestyle seemed less conventional," Dad continued. "But when crisis hit, Ashley responded with lies and crimes, while you responded with investigation and evidence." "I'm not sure that's the lesson to take from this," I replied. "I think the lesson is that you should listen to all your children and make decisions based on evidence rather than assumptions." "You're right," Mom said. "And Maya, we promise that we'll never again make major decisions about family relationships without talking to everyone involved and seeing proof of any serious accusations." It was a good promise, and I believed they meant it. But I also understood that some betrayals leave permanent scars, and that rebuilding trust after a failure this comprehensive would take time and consistency. Ashley would be in prison for the next 4 years. Grandma was learning to trust again with the help of financial counselors and security experts. My parents were working to rebuild their relationship with me through therapy and honest conversation. And I was learning that sometimes the most important family loyalty is protecting the people you love from manipulation, even when the manipulator is family. 1 year later, I was back at my parents' house for Thanksgiving, this time, genuinely invited and genuinely welcome. The dynamic was different from before Ashley's crimes, but it was healthier in many ways. We'd all learned to communicate more directly, question assumptions, and verify information rather than simply trusting that family members were always honest. Grandma was doing well, having recovered both financially and emotionally from Ashley's theft. The security measures we'd put in place had given her confidence, and she'd even started volunteering with an organization that helped elderly people recognize and prevent financial fraud. "You know what's ironic," she said as we prepared dinner together. "Ashley's attempt to steal from me and frame you for it has made me more aware of financial security than I've ever been. I'm actually better protected now than I was before her crimes." "That's a silver lining I hadn't thought about," I replied, helping her arrange flowers on the dining room table. "And Maya, I want you to know how proud I am of how you handled everything. A lot of people would have let Ashley's lies destroy their relationship with the family permanently. But you fought for the truth and helped us all heal." Mom and Dad had made significant changes in how they approached family relationships and conflict resolution. They'd attended family therapy sessions, read books about manipulation and gaslighting, and committed to more transparent communication with me about family decisions. "Maya," Dad said as we sat down for dinner, "I want to tell you about something we did that you should know about." "Okay." We updated our wills and estate planning documents to include specific protections against the kind of fraud Ashley committed. "If anything happens to us, you'll have legal authority to investigate any suspicious financial activity and prosecute anyone who tries to manipulate our assets." "That's thoughtful, but hopefully unnecessary." "We hope so too," Mom added. "But Ashley's crimes taught us that we were vulnerable to financial manipulation in ways we'd never considered. Now we have safeguards in place." They'd also made a decision about Ashley's eventual release from prison. "Maya, we want you to know that when Ashley is released, she won't be welcome in our home until she's made full restitution to everyone she harmed and demonstrated genuine accountability for her actions," Dad said. "Which means not just paying back the money, but acknowledging the full scope of the harm she caused and showing that she's developed empathy and moral boundaries," Mom continued. "What if she never develops those things?" I asked. "Then she'll never be welcome back," Dad replied. "We've learned that protecting the honest family members is more important than enabling the dishonest ones." It was a hard lesson, but an important one. Family loyalty doesn't mean accepting abuse or manipulation. It means protecting the people who deserve protection and holding accountable those who cause harm. Ashley had written me several letters from prison, but I'd never responded. Her letters followed a predictable pattern: initial self-pity, followed by attempts at manipulation, followed by anger when I didn't reply. There was no genuine accountability or empathy in her communications, which confirmed that my decision to maintain distance was correct. "Have you heard from Ashley recently?" Mom asked. "She writes occasionally, but I don't read the letters anymore," I said. "My therapist recommended that I stop engaging with her communication until she demonstrates genuine change rather than just saying what she thinks I want to hear." "That's probably wise," Dad agreed. Ashley was very good at telling people what they wanted to hear while doing whatever served her interests. After dinner, we sat in the living room sharing family memories and talking about the future. For the first time in over a year, the conversation felt natural and relaxed rather than careful and therapeutic. "Maya," Mom said, "I want to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest." "Okay. Do you trust us again? Really trust us, the way you did before Ashley's lies?" I considered the question carefully before answering. "I trust you differently now. Before Ashley's crimes, I trusted you automatically and completely. Now I trust you based on evidence and consistency." "What do you mean?" "I mean I trust that you love me and want to support me, because you've demonstrated that consistently since the truth came out. I trust that you've learned from your mistakes, because you've changed your behavior and communication patterns. But I also understand now that trust isn't something you earn once and keep forever, it's something you maintain through ongoing actions. That's probably a healthier way to approach family relationships," Dad said. "I think so. And I want you to know that I don't hold grudges about what happened. You were manipulated by someone who was very skilled at manipulation. But I also learned that I need to be more assertive about defending myself and less willing to accept being dismissed or disbelieved." The evening ended with genuine warmth and connection, not the forced cheerfulness of people trying to pretend everything was fine, but the deeper satisfaction of people who'd worked through serious problems together and emerged stronger. Driving home that night, I reflected on everything that had changed since that horrible Thanksgiving when I'd been turned away from my family's door. Ashley's betrayal had been devastating, but it had also revealed important truths about family dynamics, personal strength, and the importance of fighting for justice even when it's difficult and painful. I'd learned that I was capable of more resilience and determination than I'd ever imagined. I'd learned that evidence and documentation could overcome even sophisticated manipulation. I'd learned that real family relationships could survive serious betrayals if everyone was willing to do the work of rebuilding trust. Most importantly, I'd learned that some people will use your love for them as a weapon against you, and that protecting yourself from that manipulation isn't selfish, it's necessary for your own survival and the health of your other relationships. Ashley would be eligible for parole in 3 years. I hoped that prison and counseling had helped her develop genuine empathy and accountability, but I wasn't counting on it. If she was truly reformed, she could demonstrate that through consistent actions over time. If she wasn't, then maintaining distance would continue to be the right choice. Either way, I now had the tools and confidence to protect myself and my family from manipulation, lies, and fraud. I had evidence-gathering skills, legal knowledge, and most importantly, the understanding that love without boundaries isn't actually love, it's enabling. Looking back on this entire experience, here's what I learned. When someone accuses you of things you didn't do, don't just defend yourself with words, defend yourself with evidence. Have you ever been falsely accused by a family member who created fake proof to support their lies? How did you handle discovering that someone you trusted was systematically manipulating your family against you? If this story resonates with you, if you've dealt with family scapegoating, financial fraud, or siblings who weaponized your parents' trust against you, please know that documentation is your best defense. Drop a comment sharing your experience with family manipulation, because these stories help others recognize the warning signs. Hit that like button if you believe that family loyalty means protecting honest family members from dishonest ones, and subscribe for more stories about exposing manipulation and rebuilding relationships based on truth. Share this video with anyone who's been falsely accused or gaslit by family members. Thank you for following this journey from being banned from Thanksgiving dinner to exposing systematic fraud and rebuilding family trust. Sometimes the most important thing you can do for your family is refuse to let manipulators control the narrative. Remember, if someone is isolating you from family relationships, creating evidence against you, or demanding trust without accountability, those are red flags. Trust your instincts, document everything, and never be afraid to fight for the truth with evidence. Take care of yourselves, and remember, real family believes you when you tell the truth, supports you when you're falsely accused, and protects you from people who would hurt you, even if those people are also family.